Good evening to the friends and colleagues in the PCSC and the Light organization and to the current and previous mandate holders of the UN Special Rapporteur on the right of food. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the situation and demand of the indigenous people of West Papua. I'm Victor Yeimo from Komite Nasional Papua Barat or West Papua National Komite. We are a grassroots movement in West Papua that campaign for our people's right of self-determination. My country, West Papua, have been under Indonesian occupation since 1962 and was eventually annexed by Indonesia through a fake referendum in 1969. Right now, I'm seeking a refuge in the neighboring country of Papua New Guinea, as I'm currently being hunted down for my activism and voicing out my people's aspiration for independence. I will explain the situation and challenge in West Papua today that between the start 2019 and the first quarter of 2020, over 41,000 indigenous Papuans were forced to flee their communities due to the heavily military operation. Some, like me, have crossed to the border to the Papua New Guinea. Some are accommodated in the refugee camp in nearby regencies, and most sought refuge in the forests. Many of those who fled to the forest have died and have fallen ill due to the extreme weather condition and hunger. According to the report by the International Coalition for Papua, 214 out of 229 civilians who have died in conflict areas during 2019 was not from direct killing but due to sickness, malnutrition, exhaustion, and hypothermia during internal displacement. These military operations exacerbate the long-standing issue of hunger and malnutrition in West Papua. Compared to the region of Indonesia, West Papua has a markedly higher rate of poverty. It's about 26 to 28% than the national average, 11%. Within West Papua, indigenous West Papua have a far higher infant mortality rate. It's about 18% than their Malay counterpart, 6%. Indonesian military operations are also destroying our resources. Our homes and churches are burned and bombed, along with our gardens and fired. During this pandemic, military operations continue in the last 5 regencies in West Papua. The refugee camp day-to-day living is made difficult by the lack of access to food and the unavailability of healthy facilities, which has been detrimental to the health, especially to the women and children of internally displaced people, IDPs. Moreover, the de facto ban, Indonesian ban on journalists and humanitarian organizations in West Papua make it harder for both the local volunteers and internally displaced people to call for international assistance. The restriction on the movement during this pandemic lessens the change of aid reaching the far-flung communities in the Central Highlands. Why are we being driven off our own land? The state refused to recognize our right to our ancestral land. Since West Papua was forcibly annexed to Indonesia, the state has assumed control over the entire territory, selling out our land and resources to the capitalism and big business in the name of national development. Militarization is a shared experience by the indigenous communities around the world. It is a requisite for the encroachment of businessmen in our resources-rich lands. It provides them with the security as they ravenously extract billion worthy of our natural resources, while our children and communities have nothing to eat and are left with poisoned lands and waters. Militarization is also the state strategy to fuel the pro-independence movement. Half of century of the state violence and abandonment under international administration has led many Papuans to aspire for independence from Indonesia through an international supervised referendum, one that is free from another for any of manipulations. In the process of calling for this referendum, some indigenous Papuans have also taken up arms in order to defend themselves and their communities from all sort of terrorism committed by the Indonesian army. Now, instead of addressing the issue of militarization and corporate land grabbing as root cause of food and security, the government embarked in food estate projects that give more priority to corporate and commercial interests. The Merauke Integrated for Energy Estate, or MIVE, in West Papua's southernmost region is a prime example of Indonesia's food estate project, which has aggravated food insecurity among indigenous Papuans by dispossessing them out their dispossessing them of their land and giving this out to companies which had converted over 1.3 million hectares of forest and land area for cultivation of commercial food crops, sugar cane, oil palm plantation, and industrial tree plantation. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, President Joko Widodo is again pushing for another food estate project in West Papua that will cover 2 million hectares of forest. The government of Indonesia, as an occupying state, act as a broker to this multinational and transnational corporation by implementing policies that enable faster and smoother resources and profit extraction from West Papua. Our basic right to free, prior, and informed consent has been consistently violated through manipulation and their deceitful tactic in the state and private entities. The people who are negatively impacted by these policies have no space to voice their concern without fear or being criminalized or tagged as a separatism. Just last month, 200 individuals were arrested during the protest against the special autonomy law in Nabire Regency. In a separate action in Jayapura, state security fired a student protesting the aforementioned law within university premise. The equally controversial omnibus law has simplified business license procedures, translating to less stringent environmental requirement for businesses who want to operate in West Papua. Losing our land and mines, palm and oil plantation and agribusiness also means losing our traditional and sustainable ways of living. It destroys our relationship with the environmental and threaten the very existence of our future generations. It also significantly contributes to a climate change that is particularly felt among Pacific Islanders. This has also several impacts on our identity as indigenous people. Our food production process are part of our development of our social relation and values as a community and as a people. We recognize how all these issues of food, health, lands, climate, loss of cultural identity, and political repression are interrelated and connected our struggle for self-determination. Under Indonesian occupation, even with a so-called special autonomy, we have never been able to fully manage our own land and resources. So our demand is, with this, we humbly appeal to the Special Rapporteur on activity monitor and report the situation in West Papua in light of intersectionally in the right of food with other human rights concerns. We are also proposing to hold a dialogue, especially on West Papua, to be able to further elaborate on our case, or perhaps create our reporting mechanism wherein West Papuan can directly connect with your office to give first-hand report on a regular basis. So the KNPB and our partner organization inside and outside of West Papua would be more than happy to cooperate with the special rapporteurs in organizing this activity, which are crucial in the time that we are experiencing an information blockade. We also ask for your support for our demand to the Indonesian government to allow humanitarian organization as well as international observer and journalists access to West Papua, to respect the international humanitarian laws, especially in areas of conflict, and to uphold the right of women, children, and elderly, to pull out the Indonesian army from our communities and to stop the further deployment of troops to West Papua, to immediately implement a moratorium on extractive activities and agribusiness on indigenous lands. And finally, we ask the special reporters to support our call for independence referendum in line with the UN recognized right to self-determination. The right to self-determination guarantees our right to manage and control our land and resources for food production as well as socio-cultural development. Thank you.